I don't want to jinx it, but SmackDown has actually been pretty bearable the last 2 weeks. I think the last 2 weeks of shows have been pretty good, as Mick Foley would say. Not great by any means, and not even amazing, or I would say they're pretty good. I think that's a fair way of putting it for the past 2 weeks of SmackDown. I don't know if they've had new writers or a new direction or what the hell's going on, but between bringing in AJ Styles, focusing on the Intercontinental Championship Tournament, the Braun stuff is kind of taking a backseat. The Otis stuff is seemingly taking a backseat, and I like the Otis stuff. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want them to go overboard with it. But I think overall, I like the show. I really did. I think it was a really good show. Not short. I mean, they're all 2 hours, of course, but it felt shorter than usual. A bit more of a straightforward, simple, effective layout to the show. And I enjoyed it. I am Graham G.S.M. Matthews, and this is my audio review for Friday Night SmackDown for Friday, May 29th, 2020. Hope you guys are doing well. I thought it was a pretty good show overall, far from great, but it's a step in the right direction. And obviously, as I've said in my various reviews in the last couple of weeks, couple of days, Raw, NXT, whatever, having the crowd there, having wrestlers in the audience for these shows is definitely helpful. Absolutely. They are absolutely helpful. It's not as good as AEW does it, but, not to compare apples to oranges and whatever, but from what they're doing, it's better than the silence they were getting before from the empty arenas, so it's a step in the right direction. We kicked off the show with a pretty polarizing segment, I would say. So some people might be thinking, well, how could you call this a good show when they kicked off the episode with such an atrocious storyline, terrible, tasteless, which, if you believe that, I do not blame you whatsoever. Honestly, it's all a matter of opinion. I didn't love the angle. I didn't. So what happened was, we opened the show TMZ style with Elias laid out outside of the Performance Center with a car seemingly that hit him. I mean, I'm not sure. We didn't see any video, but this is WWE. I would say, how could this guy not have any broken bones or be dead or whatever, but it's WWE. People get dropped from cars from 80 feet in the air and are completely okay, so whatever. But we see Elias laid out outside a car with no driver. The cops go up to the car, find a bottle of liquor, whatever, a bottle of alcohol. They sniff it, and then they see a registration, piece of registration paper in the car, and they see that it was registered to Jeff Hardy. It's his rental car. They find Jeff Hardy laid out in a bush somewhere. And when I say they, I mean the cops, Jamie Noble, and there was one other agent there as well. But Jamie Noble was definitely there. And it just like this near 20 minutes, not 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 minutes. The whole first 20 minutes of the show were nothing but talking. Because what happened was, they have Elias laid out. He gets, taken out, escorted to a local medical facility, as WWE would put it. Jeff Hardy's taken into custody with the belief that he was drinking while intoxicated. He hit Elias. Obviously, he didn't. So the whole thing is, with the whole storyline, is it a gross storyline? Clearly, with Jeff Hardy being in the position that he's in WWE, if he wasn't okay with it, they wouldn't do it. But in my opinion, that doesn't make it okay. Just because Jeff Hardy gave it the green light, I still don't think it makes for great entertainment. For example, they talked about in that Dark Side of the Ring episode a couple of weeks ago on the Road Warriors about how they gave Hawk, was it Hawk? I believe it was Hawk. Obviously not Animal. Animal's still alive. Hawk was the one who had the alcoholic issues, the alcoholism issues in real life. And they gave him a storyline reflecting that on TV, on Raw, soon after their return in the late 90s. And Animal hated it. Their manager, Paul Ellering, hated it. And the thing was that even if Hawk was okay with doing it, the issue may have been he may not have been over those issues yet. He may not have been over that alcoholism. I forget when he kind of moved past that, whether it was after they left WWE or during that time before they came back. I don't remember. Jeff Hardy, not that he's dealing with these issues now, but they're still pretty fresh. Like, they did this stuff a while ago, way back when was it? In 2008? They kind of did something similar with Jeff Hardy at Survivor Series where they found him laid out in a stairwell, kind of playing. They didn't outright say this, but they kind of played into the rumors that he may have been found like drunk or intoxicated. Not that he was attacked. That's what I thought as a kid, but not really knowing about Jeff Hardy's issues at the time. I'm thinking, oh yeah, obviously he was attacked. But they were implying that, all right, that may have been his own doing. That he may have, fallen down the stairs because he was smoking or drinking or whatever. He's seemingly past that, and he has said, I'm going to be better, blah, 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 but he said that before. And all these issues that he was dealing with only happened, 6, 7, 8 months ago? Late 2019? It's not like it was 5, 10 years ago. That's one thing. The second thing, the thing about it that I think bothered me more, kind of thinking about it now, because watching it didn't really matter. As a storyline, I get what they're going for. Obviously, they established at the end of the show that he was fine. It wasn't him drinking, obviously. So I think the issue with it is that WWE always turns a blind eye to this type of shit whenever a guy like Jeff Hardy or the Usos or Alex Riley years ago or Cameron and all these other people that have been arrested with DUIs, have been suspended by the company or whatever, they always turn a blind eye. And yeah, they will suspend people for, not to say they haven't suspended people, because they suspended Cameron, I think, for drinking and driving for 30 days, like years ago, when she was still with the Funkadactyls and Brodus Clay and whatever. But like with the Usos and Jeff Hardy, they don't say they're suspended, but they just say, we have no toleration for that type of thing, but they don't fire them. They may fine them. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think so, but no repercussions are ever there. Like, for example, with the wellness policy, they'll give you a strike, a second strike, third strike, and you're out of here. I don't think they have the strikes for the drinking thing. So these people can get plastered and drink and drive as many times as they want and never get in trouble with WWE. Maybe the law, of course, but not WWE. They will continue to bring these people back. And I love Jeff Hardy. I love the Usos. But they got to do more than just that. Now, granted, they do have a rehab facility where I think Jeff went into WWE-sponsored rehab late last year, which is great, among many other former and present performers in WWE's history. But they have to take immediate action, because what if Jeff was on the road and he killed either himself or someone else? I'm not sure if that's happened before in WWE, where people have gotten into DUIs and have hurt other people, because I feel like if that has happened, they would have established a better precedent by now by saying, listen, you drink and drive again, you're out of here. You're fucking done. Or like, we suspend you for more than just 30 days. That's merely a slap on the wrist. So Rebby Hardy's reaction, Matt Hardy's reaction, which wasn't really in direct response to the Jeff Hardy thing last night, but he did say, I will reiterate, I am very happy working for AEW, which to me says, and he tweeted that right after the angle, to me says, I'm not entirely happy with what they're doing here, because Matt knows firsthand. Obviously, he's the guy's brother, but not only that, this guy has lost a ton of TV time with WWE because of his brother's actions. Now, he was his own entity there for a while at the end, and for the final few months he was with the company, but obviously they had to vacate the SmackDown tag team titles because of the injury, but they delayed his comeback because he was drinking and driving, and he had so many legal issues, and they never got to reunite before Matt left in early March. So everything that Jeff does, or at least did, in WWE when Matt was there with him, it affected Matt as well. So he was pissed more so than anyone that Jeff continued to get himself in trouble with the law. Rebby Hardy was watching from afar. Not that she buried Jeff, but she had a lot of choice words for Jeff's wife, Britt, on Twitter not too long ago, kind of saying they don't really address the issues, they don't really acknowledge them, you got to do something about it before this guy kills either me or my son, because they do live right next to each other. Who's to say that Rebby wouldn't have been leaving her house while Jeff is coming home and he, hits her head on? You know what I'm saying? So I can completely understand where Matt and Rebby are coming from. They're his family. And again, even if Jeff was okay with the storyline, I'm not sure if it was in good taste. Now, I know that's the story they're telling, like, oh, we don't know if Jeff's completely good yet. It was clearly Sheamus, especially with the fact that he was like, oh, what a fuck up. Like, I should take his spot in the Intercontinental Championship Tournament, blah, blah, blah. So Jeff was kind of screwed over because he was supposed to face Daniel Bryan on the show. Because of getting arrested at the start of the show, he had to be replaced via the winner of a battle royal at the start, which I thought overall was pretty good. They had Chad Gable, Shorty G, whatever the fuck his name is. He eliminated Cesaro. He eliminated Shinsuke Nakamura. Jey Uso was literally the last one in there with Sheamus, and you knew Sheamus was going to win. But it was cool to see Jey Uso get so much offense in. He actually eliminated King Corbin, which was pretty cool. They had, I'm trying to remember who else was in there. But, Sheamus, Cesaro, Nakamura, Gable, Corbin, Daniel Bryan was not in there because the winner faced Daniel Bryan. But, I forget who else was in the matchup. But overall, it was a decent battle royal. I thought they told some good stories. It set up Gable and Cesaro for later on in the night. But yeah, back to the Jeff thing. From a storyline standpoint, it was supposed to be his match, and then he got arrested, quote unquote, and then he was cleared of all the charges, which, by the way, they did not make mention of at the start of or rather at the end of the show. When we see Jeff again, spoiler alert, costing Sheamus his match against Daniel Bryan in the main event, which was a good match, by the way, they never once made mention of the fact that Jeff was cleared of the charges. They only acknowledged that on WWE.com after the fact. So, as viewers, yeah, it's cool to see Jeff Hardy, but if we're supposed to believe the storyline that this guy was charged with, drinking and driving and hitting Elias, whatever, he got away from the cops, he escaped from jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would we be rooting for that as viewers before finding out what actually happened? It's not even like they said, unless I missed something, it's not like they said, oh, check out WWE.com for further updates on Jeff's condition or status or, if he's cleared or not, blah, blah, blah. They didn't even say that. They were like, oh, there's Jeff Hardy. Oh, he's costing Sheamus the match. Oh, Daniel Bryan wins. It was just a little weird. The Jeff thing, the redemption story, I like it. I do. I like the redemption story overall. I could have done without this chapter. I'm not going to shit on it and poop on the company like many other people are. Whatever, if you want. If you don't like it, that's completely your thing. I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it either. I could see what they were going for. It was an interesting open to the show. I will say that when they were trying to determine who would face AJ, and AJ said, fuck, why would I face anyone? Like, I'm getting a bye to the finals. Fuck you guys. Like, we were supposed to get AJ and Elias and Bryan and Hardy on the show. Neither match we got. Bryan and Hardy I was looking forward to. AJ and Elias, not so much, personally. So AJ's going straight to the finals to face Bryan after beating Sheamus in the main event. So Jeff, by all accounts, should probably be in that match too, because he had his spot, taken away from him for no real rightful reason, aside from maybe being arrested, even though he wasn't, and that was all Sheamus' fault. I'm sure we'll come to find out. So I would say triple threat, but I assume it will be Sheamus and Hardy at the pay-per-view. Is it next weekend? No, it's 2 weeks from now, because next weekend is NXT TakeOver in your house. So anyway, as for the rest of the show, a few news and notes here. The rest of the show, there really wasn't a lot on here, to be honest with you. There were like 5 matches, I'm sorry. 5 matches, some shorter than others. The Battle Royal, I already spoke on it, that it was a fine Battle Royal. They're very hit or miss most of the time, but I thought it was okay. The Lacey Evans, Sonya Deville match, I thought was actually quite good. They didn't get a ton of time, but Sonya, as I've been saying for weeks now, has been doing an amazing job on her own as a heel. She's been knocking it out of the park. Her mic work, even her matches. The Mandy Rose match was good. I thought this was a pretty good match. And not for nothing, Lacey Evans was also great here. Her intensity was appreciated. It felt like a real fucking fight. And not like, a lethargic wrestling match, like your typical match. It was like these two women wanted to beat the living shit out of each other. And then it ended in a double countout. So clearly their issues aren't over yet. And we'll get a rematch at some point, which I like. And it's an additional story in the SmackDown Women's Division, so I like that a lot. It was a good match, and I'm sure we'll get a rematch either next week or in 2 weeks or at the Backlash pay-per-view, because it should be mentioned, too, we were told when Adam Pearce was apparently the new locker room leader on SmackDown, I don't know where that came from, but he had mentioned that the finals of the Intercontinental Championship Tournament are not taking place at the pay-per-view, but rather in 2 weeks on SmackDown. So I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not really sure, for example, you put fucking Braun versus The Miz and Morrison on that pay-per-view for the Universal Championship, but not Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. Get the fuck out of here. You clearly know it's a ratings thing, and I get it, but, you wouldn't have to boost your ratings if the product was just a bit better and more exciting. You know what I mean? I think the product overall has been good, but it's not like they were always giving away money matches when the ratings were great. Years ago, they would build to compelling pay-per-views, and that would be their bread and butter, not so much the TV ratings, but they have to improve the ratings with big matches. I get it. For example, they're doing Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles next week on the show. So I would save that for the pay-per-view. Maybe they're saving Bliss and Cross versus the Iconics of the pay-per-view, but that's not nearly as compelling. And the whole story now is that they may have called off Bayley and Sasha for SummerSlam. That's the rumor right now, that it was supposed to happen at SummerSlam, and they're calling it off again. And I say again, because seriously, it feels like they've tried to build to it at least half a dozen times since Bayley and Sasha were called up to the main roster years ago. It should have happened at WrestleMania 33. Bayley, Sasha, one-on-one. Bayley was the Raw Women's Champion. Could have turned Sasha heel. Didn't happen. It looked like they were going to go in that direction to set something up between them for SummerSlam or soon after. Didn't happen. Set something up for WrestleMania 34. Didn't happen. Or even that summer at SummerSlam or in the fall, but they teamed together instead. Didn't happen. Seemed like they were going in that direction last year. After they dropped the tag team titles, Sasha came back as a heel, Bayley as the babyface. Nope, they turned Bayley too. And it looked like they were going to set it up for WrestleMania. This year, it didn't happen. It's like, okay, you know what happening at SummerSlam? SummerSlam very likely will not be in Boston, so I could see why they may not want to, they're changing plans. Because it would make sense to do it at SummerSlam, Sasha as the babyface or tweener, whatever. And then, you do it there, and it's in her hometown, and maybe she wins, and she ends Bayley's reign, whatever. That would be cool. And the near 5-year anniversary of when they had their first match at TakeOver Brooklyn 5 years ago. That match of the year contender, one of the best, if not the best women's match they've ever done. But apparently they're not doing it. To me, it still seems like they're going in that direction. Now, they didn't tease tension here. But I think this is a good detour to have them chase the tag titles before facing each other one-on-one. If they don't do Bayley and Sasha at SummerSlam, what the hell else do you do with that division? Because Bayley has literally beaten everybody in that division. She's beaten Dana Brooke. I don't give a fuck if they're building up Dana Brooke again. She beat Naomi a couple weeks ago. I don't give a shit. We've already seen Bayley and Dana a couple of times. It's not a match I'm overly anticipating. Bayley has beaten her. Bayley has beaten Naomi. She's beaten Lacey Evans. She's beaten Tamina. Who else even is there? Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross? She's beaten them too. The only woman left that makes any sort of sense is Sasha Banks. So I really hope they're still going in that direction because I don't want to see... I got to agree with David Joseph, who replied to my tweet the other day about this. The longer they keep on with this pairing of Bayley and Sasha, the more of an afterthought Sasha feels like. She won her first televised match last night over Alexa Bliss, which was decent. The Moment of Bliss, by the way, with New Day was completely pointless. The New Day had no business being out there. They said nothing of note. They kind of teased going after the Forgotten Sons, but the Forgotten Sons never came out. Nothing ever really came from that line, and that was it. But the Bliss and Cross match was all right. The Bliss and Cross. The Bliss and Banks match was all right. Sasha wins via a roll-up of some sort to set up the tag team title match for next week. That's fine. What was I even getting at? Oh, yeah, that was the first televised match that she's won on her own since November. How fucking crazy is that? That's unbelievable for someone that's supposed to be as great as Sasha Banks. And don't get me wrong, she is very, very good. They hardly treat her like the top talent that she is. And she has not been treated like a real player in that division for literally years. Probably since her last Raw Women's Championship reign, which, if you can believe it, was almost 3 years ago. When she held the belt for an 8-day period, yeah, that was her last actual championship reign. Yeah, her and Bayley were the WWE Tag Team Champions last year. The first ever Women's Tag Team Champions. Whoop-diddy-fucking-doo-dah. Who cares? She's got to go back to being a player in that division. She's got to go back to really instilling importance in that division. I didn't say Sonya or Mandy. Those are options. They could do Bayley and Mandy in the meantime. Maybe. I would rather see Sonya, to be honest with you. I like Mandy a lot. I would much rather see Sonya as the champion. I think she's just been killing it much more than Mandy has. But other than them, there really aren't many other options. So I really hope they do that match at SummerSlam and they don't wait any longer. Because if you wait for WrestleMania, I guarantee you, they'll either lose interest and not do it, or someone will get hurt and they can't do it. So also on the show, we had, speaking of Mandy Rose, her and Otis were by poolside, and it was a funny little segment. A lot of their stuff is hit or miss, but I've been enjoying the storyline a lot so far. This was good. Mandy Rose was fantasizing, making out with Otis, and it didn't really look like they faked those kisses. And Mandy Rose has a boyfriend in real life, so I'm kind of surprised they actually really went all in on each other with the kisses here. But anyway, it was a decent segment. It was all right. We also found out on this show, very newsworthy, SmackDown's newest acquisition, courtesy of Kurt Angle for some reason, probably because he was backstage for NXT on Wednesday. I mean, the guy's been fired and he's still showing up on the show. He announced that SmackDown's newest acquisition, the same man whose match he refereed on Wednesday, Matt Riddle. Now, that's been rumored for at least the last couple of days, really not that long at all. This report came about on Monday or Tuesday. And now he's officially SmackDown bound. After losing to Timothy Thatcher on Wednesday, he's on SmackDown by Friday. Now, we didn't see him here. They just ran a short video package on him, which was good. I really fear for the guy. I do. I know I said 6, 7, 8 months ago that he'd be a good fit on SmackDown, and he is. But SmackDown, the last 2 weeks notwithstanding, has not been a great show since they moved to Fox. It really hasn't been. And I'm very fearful of what they may or may not do with Matt Riddle on that show. They may put him with King Corbin right off the fucking bat. They very well may. And honestly, after talking to the guy himself, Matt Riddle that is, it might make sense. King Corbin eliminated him from the Royal Rumble. He eliminated him from that Survivor Series match. So it might be a fine first feud, but it's not all that exciting for me personally. But Matt Riddle is headed to SmackDown. They did not give it a debut date for Matt Riddle. I assume he shows up hopefully on the sooner side. And they don't drag this out for months and months and months to the point where no one cares. I don't know. What do you do with the guy right off the bat? Is it a King Corbin? Is it a Shinsuke Nakamura? The issue with that is that it would be good matches. They would be good matches, but would anyone care? Matt Riddle and Cesaro, the matches would be awesome, but would anyone give a shit? Because they've been booked to look like such losers for so long now that it's really hard to care about these guys, in my opinion. But so we'll see what they do with Matt Riddle. I'm intrigued, but I'm also very cautious and skeptical, given the recent track record of NXT call-ups and, like EC3, for example, went to complete waste. Nikki Cross has exceeded expectations. Otis, God forbid, the guy was called up a year ago and is the current Mr. Money in the Bank. He's done very well for himself, all things considered. People like EC3, not so much. The Forgotten Sons, don't really give a shit about him personally. They've done fine. Bianca fucking Belair got called up to Raw, may have had 1 or 2 matches. We have not seen her since. She has literally not been on the show in at least a month. So why even bother calling her up when they did? You know what I'm saying? She's been relegated to main event duty. And I don't know. I would rather see her on the show maintaining momentum as opposed to not being on the show at all. They don't have to be putting her in the Raw Women's Championship picture. But to not even have her on the show after being called up and having some momentum, to me is questionable. So also on the show real quick, we had Shorty G, Chad Gable, whatever, knocking off Cesaro. Actually a very fun match, as you would imagine. I think Gable got attacked. He may not have been attacked afterward by Cesaro and Nakamura, but you could probably tell that Nakamura versus Gable is coming up, whether it be next week or the week after. That could be a very good match, as was this. It just wasn't given enough time. That's all. For the time they were given, it was a very good match. I have no faith that they're going to do anything of note with Gable beyond these next few matches, just because they've tried before. It wasn't his fault at all. They just gave up. The guy was actually getting over during the King of the Ring tournament, and then they had him lose, and then they just gave him the dumbass Shorty G name, and then nothing came of it at all. And they put him in a feud with Sheamus, and then he lost every one of those matches too. He was made to look like such a loser that it's almost impossible to care about this guy on his own. It's awesome that Drew Gulak is back, which I forgot to mention. He was shown on this show, so he's officially back with WWE. And he was technically gone because his contract did expire. They put him in the alumni section, but he is back, which is cool. It's awesome that Gulak is getting opportunities. He's on the show more, winning more matches. I want that same opportunity for Chad Gable, because the guy is as good as Gulak, if not better. And I know you can't push everyone at one time, but for the guy to be as much of a loser as he is right now, it's embarrassing. And yeah, he did win here, but will he win next week? Will he win the week after that? They got to maintain the momentum. And above all else, ditch the dumb Shorty G name. Please, I beg of you. Please. The main event, I already mentioned, Daniel Bryan beating Sheamus to advance in the Intercontinental Championship Tournament. He's going to face AJ Styles in the finals 2 weeks, not a Backlash, but rather on the, the June 12th edition of SmackDown. So overall, I thought it was a good show. Bryan and Sheamus had a very good match. Shorty G, Gable, whatever, versus Cesaro was a very fun match while it lasted. Moment of Bliss was really the only wasted time on this show, but the Bliss and Banks match did set up the tag team title match for next week. Evans and Sonya was a very good match. The Battle Royal exceeded expectations. We found out Matt Riddle's coming to SmackDown. And so overall, I thought it was a good show. Hopefully they can keep it going. They've had good shows before dropping off a goddamn cliff, with this stuff. And they're like, SmackDown's finally good again. And then it's right back to the same old stagnant status quo. So hopefully they can maintain momentum this time and continue on in this direction with the people they have. Matt Riddle's on his way in. AJ Styles is back. It's a nice step, but none of it will mean anything. If they go back to booking feuds I don't give a fuck about. For example, Braun and Miz and Morrison were not on this show. Nor should they have been, because I don't give a shit about their feud. And I like Braun, I love Miz and Morrison. It's not a feud that makes sense, it's a complete waste of time. Maybe that's why the show is so good. Maybe why, because they were nowhere to be seen on the show to further their feud. So that might also be an issue, because they should probably do more to make me care about it. And we're going to see Miz and Morrison issue a warning to Braun Strowman next week. Is that what they advertised? Who gives a fuck? I mean, who gives a shit, really? But anyway, that was my review of Friday Night SmackDown for Friday, May 29, 2020. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out these audio reviews, whether it be on YouTube or nexttheirwrestling.net. I appreciate it. There was no audio review last week just because we put up the watch-along of RJ and I watching the AEW Double or Nothing 2019 pay-per-view, so check that out. Coming up here tomorrow on the channel should be my review of the Sting the Lost tape thing going up tomorrow. I think it's under a half an hour. I'm not exactly sure what it entails, so it may not even be worth reviewing. We'll see. But if it is, I'm going to watch it regardless, and my review could be up as soon as tomorrow. If not, I have other content scheduled to go up in the next couple days. The MCU Rewatch Review Series. We're breaking down The Avengers on the next episode in the next few days, so keep an eye out for that. Probably, it might go up on my birthday on June 2nd on Tuesday. So, again, keep an ear/eye out for that in the coming days. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And also hit that notifications button to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Now, have a great rest of your weekend, guys. It's beautiful over where I am, so I'm about to go head out and play miniature golf. Wish me luck. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.